He stood by the grand window in the sitting room, staring out into the drenched garden, his reflection, looking back at him, wealthy, powerful, respected. Yet, deep inside, James felt like a prisoner in his own palace. He was one of the wealthiest men in Nigeria, owner of several thriving companies, fleets of cars, and prime properties scattered across cities. But money had become a noise that drowned out what truly mattered. His home was lavish, but cold. His wife, Elizabeth, only smiled when credit alerts landed. His daughter, Olivia, lived her entire life online, flaunting luxury bags, shoes, and travel destinations on social media. His only comfort was his son, Christopher, quiet, observant, always near, always kind. One gloomy evening, James sat at the dining table, watching his family eat without him. Elizabeth chatted on her phone, laughing in a way she never did with him. Olivia scrolled through her screen, giggling at something ridiculous online. Only Christopher noticed the sadness in his father's eyes. "Dad, are you okay?" the boy asked, his voice soft. James gave a weak smile. "I'm fine, son." But he wasn't. He was weary of fake laughter, shallow love, and being nothing. More than a wallet to the people closest to him, he needed to know if his family truly cared, or if they were simply passengers on the luxury train of his wealth. That night, long after the mansion went still, James made a secret call to his loyal assistant, Michael. "Transfer everything to the private offshore account," he instructed. "Close down the companies temporarily, announce a break, and most importantly, not a soul must know that I still have any money." Michael gasped. "Olga, are you sure? This move will scatter everything." "That's the point," James Twiderses said calmly. "Let's see who's really riding with me when there's no more engine." The next morning, James summoned his family to the expansive living room. Elizabeth walked in with irritation written on her powdered face. "Why are we having this family meeting this early?" she demanded. James took a deep breath. "I have bad news," he began solemnly. "I've lost everything. The company went under. Our accounts have been frozen. There's nothing left." "What do you mean by nothing?" Elizabeth shouted, springing to her feet. "Is this one of your silly jokes?" "I wish it was," James said, eyes downcast. "We have to vacate this mansion today. The only place I can take us is to my late father's house in the village." "Village?" Olivia shrieked, clutching her head. "Me? In a village? God forbid, bad thing." Christopher's voice cut through the noise. "Are you serious, Dad?" James nodded. "It's the only place we can go." "You're a useless man," Elizabeth roared. "You mean to say that all your degrees, all your so-called companies, and this is how you end up? Rubbish!" James walked away in silence. Christopher followed him, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, Daddy," he said. "We'll be fine." Tears filled James's eyes. "Thank you, son. You have no idea what your words mean to me." By sunset, they had packed a few clothes into bags. No more domestic staff, no more drivers, just James and his family in a rickety old car that Michael quietly arranged. The road to the village was long and rugged, painted in dust, and lined with dry bushes. Elizabeth cursed with every bump. Olivia refused to open her window, covering her nose with a scarf. Christopher, however, enjoyed the cool breeze, holding his father's hand from the back seat. After hours, they arrived at a modest compound with a small mud brick house under a rusting tin roof. Elizabeth stepped out, frozen in disbelief. "James? What is this? What kind of insult is this?" "This was my father's house," James said, looking around. "It's not much, but we'll manage." "Manage?" Elizabeth screamed. "Me? Elizabeth Okanlawan? Inside this bush house? After all the soft life I've lived? Never." Olivia gagged dramatically as she exited the car. "What is that smell?" "You. This whole place stinks. Is this where poor people actually live?" Christopher, quiet and calm, helped his father unload the bags. They opened the door with a creak. The living room was bare. 2 plastic chairs, a dusty table, cobwebs dangling like curtains. Elizabeth stayed outside, arms crossed. "I'm not entering. Take me back to Lagos now. We have no choice," James said. "This is home. For now. I should have just stayed with Toby," Olivia muttered. Christopher turned to her, clearly fed up. "Seriously? Instead of supporting Dad, you're busy complaining? We're in this together," Elizabeth barked. "Shut up. Must you talk every time? Go and suffer with your father if you like." Christopher sighed and continued, arranging the few things they had. Later, James attempted to boil water outside using firewood. His hands trembled. Smoke choked his eyes. He hadn't done this in decades. Christopher joined him. "Let me help. I used to watch the village boys do this during the holidays." James smiled faintly. "You're the only one making this bearable." "Son, thank you." Meanwhile, Elizabeth sat on a rock, inspecting her cracked nails. This is not life. This is torment. No spa, no generator, no even radio. Olivia was pacing around the compound, waving her phone in the air. No Wi-Fi, no Snap, no Instagram. How are we still in Nigeria? That night, they all squeezed into a single room. A worn-out mattress lay on the floor. No light, just a dim lantern. Mosquitoes buzzed like an angry choir. Elizabeth cursed under her breath. Olivia kept twisting and turning. Christopher lay close to his father, lightly tapping his shoulder. "Don't worry, Dad. We'll survive this." James turned. To him, eyes wet. "You're helping me more than you'll ever know." For the first time in many years, James felt something genuine. Connection. Not with his wife, not with his daughter, but with his son, Christopher. At dawn, the village rooster crowed so loudly, it sounded like it was inside the room. Olivia jumped up in panic. "Which kind of demon bird is this?" James stood, stretched, and smiled. "Time to begin our new life." Olivia staggered out, wig crooked, arms full of mosquito bites. "I'm going to die here. I swear, my soul is already halfway to Yaba." James ignored her and picked up a hoe. "If we want to eat, we must work. Let's start farming." Elizabeth burst into laughter. "Farm? You want me, Elizabeth, to carry hoe like Mama Chinyere? No be me, oh." Olivia crossed her arms. "Me? Hold hoe? Never. Over my dead body." But Christopher stepped forward, collected the hoe. "Let's go, Dad. I'm with you." James smiled, pride and sorrow swimming in his chest. "Let's go, son." As father and son walked off to the field, James felt a stirring in his heart. Pain, but also peace. At least he still had Christopher. Back at the compound, Elizabeth watched them disappear down the dusty path. Her eyes caught a group of gossiping village women under a mango tree. Among them stood a rotund man in rich native attire, gold chains gleaming in the sun, and a red cap perched on his head. He was the village chief, Chief Morgan. He looked like money. Elizabeth's eyes lit up. From that moment, her betrayal began to take shape. By the third day, village life had swallowed them whole. The sun was merciless, the water warm, and the air heavy. There was no fridge, no running tap, and certainly no house help. Elizabeth fanned herself furiously with a palm leaf fan under the mango tree. This is not life. This is spiritual warfare. Olivia dragged a plastic bucket across the compound, wearing mismatched slippers. Her makeup had vanished. Her face was blotched with sunburn and mosquito bites. "Mommy," she whispered, "we need to act fast. My skin is turning black." Just then, Chief Morgan strutted out from a nearby compound. His rapper was loud, his glasses dark, his swagger confident. Two young village girls giggled behind him, carrying his bag and cane like he was royalty. "That's the chief," Elizabeth whispered. "Look at that gold. This man is clearly not suffering." Olivia gawked. "Is that how chiefs look? See his belly? Mommy, be careful." Elizabeth straightened her wrapper, fixed her head tie, and smirked. Sometimes when a door closes, God opens a window. With generator and AC, she walked toward the chief. "Good morning, sir," she said sweetly, dipping slightly. Chief Morgan adjusted his glasses and grinned. "Ah, who do we have here? You're not from around here." Elizabeth smiled warmly. "No, sir. We just moved in. My husband." And so the game began. Even though there was no network in the village, a middle-aged man named Mr. Brown noticed Olivia from afar. He was in his late 40s, round-bellied from years of gari and goat meat, and he owned a small provisions shop near the market square. He waddled over, his slippers flapping with each step, and said with a sly smile, "Fine girl like you shouldn't be sitting alone like this." Olivia tilted her head slightly and smiled politely. "I'm not from around here." "I can see that," he chuckled. "City blood day your body. So what brings a Lagos girl to this forgotten place?" She sighed heavily. "My foolish father. He dragged us here to suffer in this dust and bush." Mr. Brown adjusted his cap and leaned in, lowering his voice. "Sorry to hear that, my dear. But CN, I can help you feel comfortable. If you want, I give you small things. A little money, fine body cream, some new slippers, something to remind you, say, city life. No, far from you. Olivia raised a brow, pretending to be unimpressed. Really? And what's the catch? He laughed, his belly jiggling. No catch. A small thing. Just visit me once in a while. My wife no need to know anything. Olivia bit her lip, pretending to think. Okay. But you must keep your word. No drama. Of course. Nami you dey talk to, he said, his hand already sliding to her shoulder. And so began Olivia's secret life, one hidden behind the broken fences and thick bushes of the village paths. She became the sweet-faced girl in public, and Mr. Brown's guilty pleasure in private. Back at their thatched compound, James sat outside with his son Christopher under the pale glow of the moonlight, mending a broken fishing trap. Daddy, Christopher said quietly, do you think we'll ever go back to Lagos? James looked up at the stars, their dim sparkle barely cutting through the Harmattan haze. Maybe, but not until I find out who truly deserves it. Christopher frowned. What do you mean? James sighed deeply. You'll understand when you're older. Meanwhile, every single morning in the village felt like punishment to Elizabeth. Gone were the warm showers and sweet-smelling lotions she adored. Instead, her days began with sweeping red dust courtyards, fetching water in iron buckets, and eating dry cassava with bitter leaf soup without a single shred of meat. One particular morning, Elizabeth grumbled so loudly it echoed across the walls. She tied her wrapper loosely around her chest and stomped about the compound. What kind of useless life is this? I'm tired, James. This village life is not for me. I didn't marry you for this kind of suffering. James, seated on a wooden stool near the doorway, replied calmly, We have no choice, Elizabeth. We're lucky to even have this roof over our heads. She hissed and stormed back inside the house, slamming the old wooden door. Unknown to James, Elizabeth had started disappearing each afternoon. She would pick her finest wrapper, the one with golden embroidery, spray the last of her city perfume, and walk briskly down to the village's only hotel, Golden Moon Lodge. Inside the lodge, Chief Morgan sat like royalty, a man of wealth and scandal. He had already bribed the hotel receptionist, a young girl named Peace, with $10,000 every week, just to keep his secret meetings with Elizabeth away from his 4 wives. Peace, he would whisper, sliding the crisp notes into her palm. If any of my wives come asking, you no see me, you no hear my name, Abby, you understand? Peace would smile nervously. Yes, Chief, I know go talk. One blazing afternoon, Elizabeth walked into the hotel lobby. Chief Morgan was already waiting in the private room, bare-chested in a white singlet and shorts. His thick gold chain hung proudly on his chest, and he was chewing roasted bushmeat lazily. My queen, he said with a wide grin, you look more delicious every day. Elizabeth giggled and sat close to him on the bed. You and this your mouth. You just know how to sweet-talk a woman. He fed her a piece of meat with his fingers. That's because you deserve sweetness. Let me tell you something important today. I'm listening, she said, chewing slowly. I've made up my mind. I'm going to chase all my 4 wives away. Elizabeth's mouth dropped open. All of them? Yes. They're just drama and wahala. You, Elizabeth, you give me peace. You satisfy me. I want to marry you and build you the biggest house in this village. Elizabeth blinked in disbelief. Are you serious? Very serious. And let me tell you one more thing. You see our village king? The man is coughing every day. He's older than this earth. When he dies, guess. What? What? Elizabeth asked eagerly. I will be the next king. The elders already hinted it to me. I've given them plenty things. Big goats, bags of rice, good palm oil. They are already nodding my way, Elizabeth gasped. So I will become the queen of course, Queen Elizabeth of Umudioka village. They both burst into laughter. Then he whispered into her ear, I have gold mines. I have land. I have shops in Onitsha. I even have oil people I supply in Bielsa. I'm not just rich, my dear. I am powerful. Elizabeth looked at him like a schoolgirl offered candy. Chief, you're too much. He touched her cheek gently. Leave. That useless husband. He's finished. Come and enjoy your life. I will rent you a beautiful house here, far from your poor husband and those ungrateful children. That's the spirit. He dipped into his bag and brought out a bundle of fresh Naira notes. Take this and 20,000. Buy new wrappers. And next week, the surveyor will come. We start building your new palace." Elizabeth's heart danced. She held the money like it was pure gold. "Chief, may thunder scatter your enemies. May you live long." They remained together until evening. As darkness approached, peace guided Elizabeth out through the back door so no one would see her sneaking away. As Elizabeth walked home along the narrow bush path, a smile lit up her face. She couldn't wait to tell Olivia about her new luck. Back at home, James sat with Christopher, hammering wood together to fix a broken bench. Christopher looked up and asked, "Where's Mummy again?" James paused, eyes fixed on the nail he was driving in. "She went to fetch firewood, or maybe she's with the women's group." But deep inside, James wasn't sure anymore. Christopher didn't believe it. His mother didn't even know how to carry firewood properly. She barely knew how to boil yam without burning it. Yet, when Elizabeth returned from her so-called errand, she didn't come back with firewood. She came back with a nylon bag filled with meat, fresh groundnut oil, packets of seasoning cubes, and even 2 tins of sardines. James stood up from the bench outside the mud-walled house, his eyes widening. "Where did you get all these?" he asked, stunned. Elizabeth didn't even blink. She arranged the items on the cracked wooden table as if it was the most natural thing. "A woman at the village market gave me," she replied, too smoothly. "Her husband is a trader from Kafanshan. We used to know each other long ago." James stared at her, unconvinced, but said nothing. He had grown tired of questioning her strange new behaviors. That night, Elizabeth cooked a special meal. The mighty, rich aroma of palm oil and spices filled their small home, and the neighbors even peeked through the window, wondering who was celebrating. But only 2 plates were served, one for herself, one for Olivia. James and Christopher sat in the dim corner, sipping Gary-soaked in lukewarm water again. As they ate in silence, James felt the weight of his failure pressing on his chest like a grinding stone. Inside the cramped bedroom, Elizabeth whispered into Olivia's ears, her voice low but urgent, "Everything the chief said today. It was real. He's powerful, and he's richer than your father ever was." Olivia's eyes widened, gleaming with excitement. "Are you serious?" she whispered. Elizabeth nodded, lips curled in a sly smile. "Very. He offered me a gift just for sitting beside him. You should have seen the size of his car." Olivia giggled like a child. "Mummy, I swear I'll never go back to that boring city again." They both burst into laughter, wicked and high-pitched, like conspirators drunk on secrets. The next afternoon, the village was quiet under the heat of the sun. The red earth smoked beneath people's feet as women carried firewood on their heads and fetched water from the stream. Children ran barefooted, their laughter echoing across compounds. Olivia, however, sat lazily in front of their house, chewing gum and scrolling on her phone, though there was no signal. She wore a tight, shiny gown that clung to her curves, a gown she had secretly received from Mr. Brown, the same married man she had been sneaking around with. Only yesterday, Mr. Brown had lied to his wife, claiming he had a men's fellowship in another village. In truth, he had driven Olivia deep into the bush path near his farmland. They spent hours under a tree, hidden from the world, their shadows dancing under the rustling leaves. But in every village, bad news travels on fast feet. That afternoon, as Olivia sipped Zobo and pretended to be busy, a woman stormed into the compound with fire in her eyes. It was Mrs. Brown. Her wrapper was half-tied, her face darkened with dust and fury. "Where is that useless girl?" she screamed, fists clenched. Olivia slowly looked up from her chair. She crossed her legs like a queen and casually removed her chewing gum. "Yes?" she said, raising one brow. "Who's shouting like a mad woman this hot afternoon?" "You're the one I came to see, you shameless goat," Mrs. Brown barked. "Stay away from my husband. You hear me? Stay far away." Olivia threw her head back and laughed. "Your husband? Madam, please, don't crack my ribs. That man came to me by himself, begging. What do you want me to do? Chase him away?" Mrs. Brown's hands shook with rage. "I've been married to that man for 18 years, and now a small rat like you wants to scatter my home?" Olivia stood up, chewing boldly. She eyed the woman from head to toe. "See you," she said with a smirk. "You look like poverty and hunger. That's why your husband is tired of eating jollof without meat. He wants pepper soup with fresh fish. Me, you, insulting me!" Mrs. Brown screamed. "Let me warn you, old woman," Olivia sneered, stepping closer. "Don't try me. I don't fight for men. But if you cross me, you'll lose more than your husband. God will judge you." the woman cried, tears stinging her eyes. Olivia clapped mockingly. Judge me quick then, because I'm not stopping. Just then, James stepped out from the corner, where he had been fixing a broken stool. His face was pale. His hands trembled. He had heard every word. Olivia, he said softly. She turned, annoyed. Oh, great. Here we go. Is it true? He asked, walking slowly toward her. Are you really sleeping with that man's husband? Olivia rolled her eyes and picked at her nails. So what if I am? James's voice trembled. My daughter? This is wrong. You're young. You have a whole future ahead of you. Why destroy another woman's home? Daddy, please, she scoffed. Mind your own business. He paused. I am your father. This is my business. Which father? She snapped, her voice suddenly sharp like a knife. The one who dragged us from a mansion in Abuja to this god-forsaken village? The one who lost everything? Look around. We're drinking Gary and bathing with sachet water. You think I'll suffer like you? Never. James blinked. Her words struck him like hot slap. I know things are hard now, but what? She cut in. But you failed. That's what. I had followers. I had boys begging to take me out. Now look at me. I smell like firewood and wear slippers made from tires. Tears welled up in James's eyes, but he swallowed them. All I'm saying, he whispered, is this path you're on, it will destroy you. Please, my daughter. Olivia laughed bitterly. You destroyed everything, Daddy. I'm just doing what I must to survive. That's all that matters now. She turned and stormed into the house, her heels clacking like thunder. James stood there, broken, speechless, the weight of shame pressing on his shoulders like a grinding stone. Unseen, Christopher had watched everything through the cracked window. His heart ached. He wanted to scream, to defend his father, to slap sense into Olivia, but he knew this wasn't the moment. That night, James sat outside alone. The moon hung like a pale eye in the sky. The stars sparkled, but his heart was heavy with darkness. He had lost control of his family. The loyalty test he once imagined had turned into a haunting mirror, showing him painful truths he had long tried to ignore. By morning, the air was cool and quiet. Birds chirped from the nearby mango trees, and the first smoke of cooking fires rose into the sky. Inside the house, Christopher stood near the wooden door and watched as his mother dressed again. Bright earrings, her best wrapper, and a red lipstick that didn't match the early hour. She looked like she was heading to a party, not the market. He stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. Mother? Elizabeth turned slowly, adjusting her blouse. What is it again, Christopher? I want to talk to you, he said. Please. Just listen, she sighed, looking away. If this is another lecture about my life, please spare me. He didn't move. Mother, this life you're living, the one you and Olivia are choosing, it's not good. People are talking. She gave a dry laugh. Let them talk. Their mouths are free. It's not just about gossip, he insisted. It's about respect. Your name, your dignity. What happened to the woman who once taught us about honor? Her face changed. She looked him in the eyes. That woman died, she said bitterly. She died the day your father failed us. The day we went from owning a duplex to begging for salt in this cursed village. He's still your husband, Christopher said quietly. Used to be, she snapped, before he became a beggar. A man who can't buy ordinary soap. So that's it? He asked. Because he's broke. He's no longer a man? Elizabeth laughed coldly. Love doesn't pay rent. Love doesn't cook food. Love doesn't buy cream for dry skin. Mother, he whispered, even if you hate him now, is this the solution? Dressing up like a stranger, ignoring your family, embarrassing yourself around men who only want your body? She picked up her worn-out handbag and walked to the door. If your father chose to be useless, let him enjoy the fruit of his labor. I have no pity left. None. She stepped out, leaving Christopher staring at the space where the mother he once knew used to stand. Christopher stood with his arms folded, staring at his mother. His face was tight with frustration. Even that man you keep following around, he said, voice rising slightly. I don't see how he's made your life any better. What has he really given you that Dad never did? Elizabeth raised her chin defiantly. He gives me peace of mind, she said with quiet dignity. He gives me attention. He reminds me that I still matter. Christopher shook his head in disbelief. He gives you change, Mum. Small, embarrassing change, and you act like it's a blessing from heaven. You used to sleep on king-size beds. You used to fly to Lagos just to buy a single wig. Now, someone gives you 5,000 naira, and you smile like you've won a lottery. Elizabeth's face darkened. Her tone was sharp. "Watch your mouth, Christopher. I am still your mother." "I know," Christopher said, his voice steadier now, "and that's exactly why I'm telling you the truth, because I still believe you can change." Elizabeth turned her face away and fiddled with the edge of her wrapper, pretending to adjust it. "Your father will never be rich again. That man is finished." Christopher's eyes burned with emotion. "You don't know tomorrow, Mama. You don't. Things can turn around." She scoffed and pointed at the cracked wall behind them. "Look around you. Does this place look like it belongs to someone on the rise? This man can't even fix leaking roofs." Christopher took a deep breath and answered slowly, "Yes, because I believe in him. I believe he will rise again. I believe he will stand tall once more. And when that time comes, Mama, you will regret every single word." Elizabeth let out a cold, dry laugh. "Don't worry," she said, picking up her handbag. "Just wait until the house Chief Morgan is building for me is complete. I'll be out of this place, out of your life. You can keep your struggling father and this poverty-stricken existence." Christopher clenched his fists. His next words came out in a low growl. "You should be ashamed of yourself." Elizabeth turned, stunned. "What did you just say?" "You heard me," he said. "Ashamed, not just for turning your back on Dad, but for betraying yourself, for throwing away your dignity, for crumbs." There was a long silence. For a moment, just a flicker, Elizabeth's eyes softened, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. She turned sharply and headed for the door. "Be careful how you talk to me, Christopher," she said without turning back. "I'm still your mother." She left, slamming the door behind her. Christopher stood in the doorway, the tears he refused to let fall beginning to pool in his eyes. Elizabeth walked briskly down the dusty road of the village. Her wrapper was lifted just above her ankles to avoid the puddles and mud. She swung her small handbag like a city lady late for an appointment, humming a sweet tune to herself as she thought of the new life Chief Morgan had promised her. A big house, shiny golden bangles, a soft mattress that didn't squeak, freedom from James's empty wallet and broken dreams. But suddenly, husband snatcher. "So this is the narrow road you take every day to chase after Chief, eh?" Elizabeth turned, startled. It was Ijoma, one of the chief's wives, standing at the edge of the footpath with her arms folded like a gatekeeper. Her eyes burned with rage. Elizabeth raised a brow with city girl confidence. "See this one, local champion." "Who asked you to open your mouth?" Ijoma took a step forward. "Local champion? Me? You, who left the city to come and snatch another woman's husband in a poor village? You should bury your face in the sand." Elizabeth hissed and moved closer. "You think I'm scared of you? I used to wear diamonds, you hear? Real ones. Do you even know what original perfume smells like? Don't try me today." Ijoma laughed a bitter laugh. "You, a former billionaire's wife, now following a village chief with fake gold and big grammar. So, this is your upgrade?" Elizabeth paused. "What did you just say?" "I said his gold is fake. Ask around. Everyone knows. He wears shine, lies and whispers sweet nothings to any woman that will open her legs. Use your head, Elizabeth." Elizabeth pushed her. "Don't insult me. You're jealous. Jealous because he picked me over all of you." Ijoma pushed her back. "Picked you because your legs are open. Nonsense." Before anyone could blink, the two women were pulling at each other's wrappers. The red dust flew around them like angry spirits as they wrestled, shouting and throwing curses. People stopped to watch. A young boy ran past laughing. "Come and see fight. City woman and chief's wife are wrestling on the road." Elizabeth broke free, breathing heavily. She adjusted her wrapper with shaky hands. "Rubbish!" she spat, and stormed away without looking back. She didn't stop until she reached Golden Moon Lodge, where Chief Morgan usually stayed. Her chest was rising and falling as she banged. "On the door! Come in!" came the lazy voice from inside. Elizabeth pushed the door open. "What is the meaning of all this nonsense?" The chief looked up from his steaming plate of pounded yam. "What is it this time? I just fought one of your wives on the road. She called you a fraud, said your gold is fake, said you're poor, and you lie to women." The chief calmly wiped his fingers and mouth with a napkin. "And you believed her?" Elizabeth folded her arms. "I never really checked your gold before, but now that I think about it, bring it. Let me feel it." The chief raised an eyebrow. "Are you mad?" I said. "Bring it!" Elizabeth shouted. "Answer me. Is your gold real or not?" The chief stood up slowly. "Of course it's real." Elizabeth scoffed. "You must think I'm A fool. I used to have real diamonds on my fingers, real marble floors. Even the toilet handles in our house were gold-plated. Do you think I don't know what's original? The chief frowned. And yet, you left all that to follow me. Who is the fool now? Elizabeth gasped. What did you just say? You heard me, he said. A woman who abandons her husband because of money has no value. If poverty can chase you, then you're cheap. Her mouth trembled. So, this is how you see me? Yes, he said coldly. You think you're special? You're just another woman to me. At least my wife stayed with me when I had nothing. You ran away from one broke man to another. Elizabeth stepped back. Her eyes glistened. God will judge you, the chief pointed at the door. Leave my room, and don't come back. Elizabeth stormed out, her chest tight with anger and shame. As she walked back through the village, people pointed, whispering loud enough for her to hear. See the city woman, one said. Now she dey run after people husband. Another added, she thought she was bigger than the village. Now see her. Someone laughed, like a stray goat. Elizabeth walked faster, her head bowed, but the shame hung around her like a second skin. Her dreams were scattering like dry leaves under Harmattan wind. At home, she sat on the low stone outside their compound and covered her face. Her chest rose and fell with deep, bitter sighs. What kind of life is this? She whispered. Footsteps approached behind her. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. She knew that quiet walk. Elizabeth, James said gently. She didn't reply. He came and stood in front of her. His voice was low but sharp, like a knife. I am ashamed of you. Elizabeth looked up slowly, her face full of fatigue and anger. What did you say? I said, I am ashamed. James repeated. The whole village is talking. My name is everywhere. You dragged it through the mud. They said you fought a woman over a man. On the road. Elizabeth stood slowly, straightening her back. So you came here to insult me too? James's voice rose, full of pain. What kind of woman have you become? From billionaire's wife to village street fighter. Elizabeth let out a bitter laugh. And who made me fall? You. You failed me. You failed us. You dragged us from a mansion in Victoria Island to this place. Now you want to act like you're better than me? James shook his head slowly. His eyes were glassy, but his face was hard. You lost everything, he said. But the saddest part is, you also lost yourself. You call yourself a woman? You threw away your shame for small money, James said, his voice calm but filled with pain. You chased after a man with fake gold, and now you're still here shouting. Elizabeth rolled her eyes and planted her hands on her hips, like a market woman ready for war. If you're done talking, kindly go inside. This village belongs to me now. You're nobody here. James looked her in the eye. You're the one who lost, not me. He turned quietly and walked away, shoulders heavy, but head still held high. The next morning, Elizabeth was seated on the wooden bench outside, chewing on roasted groundnuts, acting unbothered. James emerged with a small bag and a quiet confidence. I got a job, he said calmly, fastening the straps of his worn-out sandals. Elizabeth gave him a dismissive glance. And so? She scoffed. In the city, as a security man, James continued. It's small, but it's a start. I told Christopher already. We're leaving tomorrow. Elizabeth suddenly burst into a cackling laugh that echoed down the dusty village street. Security man? You? In this, your old age? Ah, you're truly finished. So you want me to follow you to the city and be answering, Madam Security Wife? I beg, carry your wahala and go. James remained unshaken. I didn't ask you to follow me. You made your choice already. She laughed louder and slapped her thigh. Go, oh. I prefer staying in this village than suffering with a security man in one small boy's quarters. In fact, I'm happy. At least, now, I can breathe fresh air without your morning prayers disturbing me. James nodded slowly. So be it. The next day, Christopher packed his small school bag. It was a simple, nylon bag with fading cartoon characters, but he carried it with pride. He followed his father silently to the village motor park. He didn't even glance back at the house he once called home. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and Olivia sat under the mango tree outside, peeling oranges and laughing like girls with no worries. Finally, Olivia said, the house is peaceful. Elizabeth smiled slyly. Nobody to disturb us with long prayers and unnecessary preaching. I can now live my life freely. Olivia giggled. No more Christopher asking, where are you going, Auntie Olivia? Or, when will you come back? Elizabeth raised her wrapper, stretched her legs wide, and exhaled like a woman released from prison. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Let them go and suffer in that city. They both laughed, not knowing the twist that destiny had already prepared. As James and Christopher arrived in the city, the morning sun cast golden shadows on the busy streets. The contrast from the village was stark. There were honking cars, tall buildings, and people rushing like time was running away. Christopher looked around, wide-eyed. "Daddy, where are we going?" "You'll see," James replied, with a calmness that hinted at a hidden truth. They walked past several busy streets, finally stopping in front of a majestic mansion. The house was protected by a high fence, and beyond it, one could see flower gardens, a water fountain dancing in the middle of the compound, and shiny cars parked in neat rows. Christopher looked confused. "Daddy, is this where you're working now?" James smiled, that quiet, confident smile that hides decades of wisdom. He reached into his trouser pocket and pulled out a small black remote. With one click, the massive gate opened slowly, like the curtain of a stage play. "Come," he said. They walked inside. Christopher's mouth hung open. The mansion looked even bigger inside the compound. A grand fountain in the center gushed crystal-clear water. There were cars, fine cars with shiny paint and leather seats, and a wide veranda with marble floors. "Whose house is this?" Christopher asked, his voice barely a whisper. James took a deep breath. "This is our house, Christopher. Our new home." Christopher's jaw dropped. "Ours? But how? I thought we were poor." James laughed softly. "We were never truly poor. My son, I sold our old house and chose to live humbly in the village. I needed to teach your mother and sister a lesson. We were spending carelessly and losing our values. I wanted to see who truly valued family, who would stand by me when there was nothing left." Christopher was silent, stunned. "So, all this time, it was a test?" he finally asked. James nodded. "A test to reveal true character. Money comes and goes, but people's hearts, they show in hardship." Christopher thought of his mother, of Olivia, of how quickly they abandoned their family the moment comfort disappeared. "They made their choices," James said. "I gave them the chance to follow us, but they chose their own path. But you stayed, even when it was hard." James placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "That's why I brought you here. This house, this life, it's for us now, for those who understand what truly matters." Christopher wandered around the living room, touching the smooth walls, the chandeliers above, and the leather sofas. Everything looked like a dream. "Dad," he said finally, "I'm not happy about the deception, but I understand why you did it. I just wish things were different with Mum and Olivia." James nodded, his eyes heavy with regret. "Me too. But we can't force people to value what they don't understand. Now, let's build something better, something we can be proud of." Christopher nodded. "Let's start again. This time, we do it right." Meanwhile, back in the village, Elizabeth and Olivia were sipping kunu under the mango tree when a slim, tall man named Thomas walked up to them, panting slightly. "Good afternoon, Miss Elizabeth." "Sister Olivia," he greeted politely. Elizabeth squinted. "Thomas, what is it? You came to borrow pepper or gossip again?" Thomas chuckled nervously. "No, madam. I just returned from the city, and what I saw it shocked me." Olivia rolled her eyes. "If it's not about money or fashion, please don't disturb our peace." Thomas's eyes lit up. "It's about your husband, Mr. James." Elizabeth paused. "What about him?" Thomas clutched the rolled newspaper in his hand. "He's now rich again. I saw it with my eyes. He's living in a big mansion, bigger than the one you people lost. I swear on my grandfather's grave." Elizabeth blinked and burst into laughter. "You're a clown, Thomas," Olivia added. "Did the sun fry your brain in the city?" "I am serious," Thomas insisted. "Marble floors, fountain, big compound. I even saw Christopher. They were looking fresh, like people who bathe in milk," Elizabeth hissed. "That house belongs to his boss. That man is a security guard." Olivia laughed. "My daddy? A rich man again? With that faded shirt and dusty slippers? Please, Thomas, stop drinking rainwater." "But I saw him open the gate with remote," Thomas argued. "So?" Elizabeth scoffed. "Maybe he was sent to clean the place. Don't let this foolish man confuse you. They even said the house is his," Thomas whispered. Olivia crossed her legs. "Poor people pretending to be rich. Not today. Let him keep deceiving people." Thomas shook his head. "But what if he's truly rich again?" Elizabeth stood tall and raised her wrapper with pride. "Let me tell you something. James can never make it again. Never. His suffering is permanent. He is a finished man. Olivia stood beside her mother like a deputy. And since you like him so much, go and greet him from us. Tell him his wife and daughter said he's still a disgrace. They both laughed. Carefree. Thomas sighed. I just thought you should know. We don't care, Elizabeth snapped. Carry your gossip and go. Thomas turned and walked away slowly, shaking his head. He had seen pride before, but this was something worse. As soon as he was gone, Elizabeth leaned closer to Olivia. I didn't want to say it in front of him, but let me tell you the good news. Olivia's eyes widened. What is it, Mama? Elizabeth smiled wickedly. The king has proposed to me. I'm going to be his wife, Olivia screamed. Mama! Queen Elizabeth of our village! You want to wear beads and silk and walk with maids behind you? Elizabeth nodded proudly. Soon, I'll move into the palace. Olivia clapped. Me too. That married man I'm seeing said he wants to leave his wife for me. We are moving up. Elizabeth laughed. Good things are coming our way. Olivia looked at the sky. Soon. No more lectures from Christopher. No more shame from that poor man you call husband. They both laughed, not knowing they were celebrating. Foolishness. They didn't realize that in chasing fake crowns and vanity, they had thrown away the true treasure, family, love, and integrity. And time was ticking. The truth was coming like a storm. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and join us again next time for another unforgettable story on African folktale magic.